Hey, it's Mary from Insect Shield, and I am so excited to have Mahina Wommack here. Welcome, Mahina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, and I didn't introduce where you're from. So, you are the founder of Alpha Gal Pal.
I am.
Okay.
I
So,
am.
obviously, that's connected to Alpha Gal, and we want to hear what Alpha Gal Pal is. But first, if you can just kind of talk about your experience with Alpha Gal, and also maybe just remind everyone what Alpha Gal is.
Okay.
Yes, it's a lot,
Well,
a lot of questions.
I actually, my great Mother's Day gift last year was finding a Lone Star tick on my leg. I had taken my dog for a walk and just at our city park
Hmm.
and came home and felt something on me and I brushed it off and realized it was stuck. I had a tick. And I kind of joked about it with my husband. I was like, oh, this is the first one I've seen since we've been here, and didn't think much about it.
You know, it may just and so you knew it was a tick. You know how to remove the tick.
Mhm.
You've had some experience with ticks. You're a tick
Yeah, I
knowledgeable
grew up in
person.
Texas and
Okay,
we've
right,
lived in Mississippi, so we have been around ticks
right.
forever.
Okay.
I didn't really know anything about alpha gal. I had heard about it and I was a little bit cautious. After I found the tick, then I read a little bit more about it because there are a lot of cases here. So at that point, I did a little bit more research into it. I wasn't really worried. I wasn't experiencing any problems. It wasn't until July that I thought, my stomach isn't right. And on that day, I stopped eating anything mammalian.
Yeah.
I didn't even wait until I went to the doctor. I
Yeah.
was just like, I got to get this checked.
Okay.
So I went and got tested. Um, my test came back positive, and I had a whole lot of learning to do and a little bit of time to do it in
Right.
because once you get it, I mean, you, it's hard because you have to stop eating mammalian meat and mammalian byproduct. Um, but you don't even know where to begin.
Right. When I
So,
think, yeah, I mean, and just to go back a little bit with your, I mean, because your story, you knew it was a Lone Star tick, so you were like one of the rare people that actually knew what kind of tick was on you, how to remove the tick, and also knew that there was this potential of the alpha gal syndrome that you could have been exposed. So you had a lot of knowledge. So I mean, so when you started feeling, and you went to your doctor, did you say you need to test me for this? And did they say, okay, let's do it?
I did. I said, I want to be tested. And she was like, oh, it's probably not that. We really don't see that many cases. And I was like, no, I'm here. Let's test. So even she was surprised that it
Right.
came back positive.
Well, I mean, it's huge and good for you because so many of the stories that we hear is people struggling for like months, years, and then just being like the doctor saying you have irritable bowel or you're just like it's in your head. I mean, it's really like fantastic. I mean, not fit, but it's really great to hear someone like you had the knowledge and you went in and you were listened to because it sounds like so many people, a lot of their struggle is just like they don't have the information and then they don't know. And then a doctor would, if the doctor said to them, oh, you don't have it, they'd be like, okay, then you don't need to test because obviously doctor knows best. So good for you.
Right.
you know?
Well, the crazy thing, Mary, is that after I tested and after I gave up the mammalian meat, is when I realized that I had been struggling with other symptoms for about 6 years that
Really?
I didn't know. I had had MRIs and I had had all kinds of scans and blood work. I had actually even quit driving for almost a year prior to because I was having such bad spells of vertigo and tinnitus, and they couldn't find the cause. So come to find out that even though I thought I caught it early, I actually have had it for 6 or more years.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, so you're wow. That's so what a story. So now like but so you've had it for 6 years and you got to the point where you couldn't drive. I mean, that is dramatic. That like a tick
Yeah.
bite and like and so had you been having like had you been having stomach issues before or was it more of these other types of
Not
symptoms?
a little
Yeah.
bit, but not anything that I was really going to the doctor
Right.
for.
And then since you stopped eating any meat products or the byproducts, which is kind of the other part of the story, have you not had that? Are you cured of all these ailments?
If I'm feeling bad, if I'm having a bad day, if I've gotten into something that I shouldn't have gotten into, then I do on occasion have the same, the dizziness.
Right.
But no, I drive again and for the most part I am back to where I was prior to having all of that.
Wow, that's what that is. That is the big part of the story then. Um,
Yeah.
so what? So okay, so this is all then. So it's old, but it's new. So we're just
Yes.
talking July. So and right now we're in January. To full disclosure here, so we're talking like basically 6 months ago,
Hmm.
and then but then you've decided, okay, I got to help get the word out, and you started a whole website business, Alpha Gal Pal. So
Well,
what happened with that?
I went looking for resources, trying to learn what I was dealing with, and they were so hard to find. I found a few websites that were helpful, um, but where I found the most help was on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on there, and then what I realized is that everybody is different. So some people can still consume dairy, and some people are like adamant that you can't have anything,
Okay.
whether you react to it or not. So what happened is after I joined this Facebook group, I was afraid of everything. I
Mm.
cleaned out my entire house. I changed my products. Even though I didn't think I was reacting to them, I had not just a food fear, but a fear of anything. Um, so I went really overboard with it.
Right.
And my poor husband, he was very patient. um, and I changed all of our household
Right.
products and including my laundry products. Well, I wasn't reacting to them when I changed them. So, but I didn't wash all of my seasonal clothes. So as the season started to change, what was happening is I was pulling some of these old clothes out and putting them on and realizing, oh, I can't wear this. I'm itching,
Really.
because it had the old soap still
I
in
don't think
in the
people realize.
clothes.
So there's a lot of like a lot of regular detergents for both dishes and for clothing have some sort of mammalian stuff, yeah,
Everything.
which you
It
kind of don't
is.
want to think about, but you have like some sort of
It is.
like
It is in everything. So but what I had done is when I made so many drastic changes, I possibly made myself more reactive. This is one of the studies that they're looking at is
interesting.
when you cut out everything so quickly, you become more reactive to it. So it really has to be a personal choice on how much you want to cut out and how quickly you want to cut it out if you're not reacting. And
So you could maybe potentially the laundry detergent would have been okay because your body was already like immune to it, as it were. But then you
right,
stopped using it, and then it's like, wait, this okay. So,
right.
yeah.
So, so it got potentially, I got everything changed. I got everything washed and I got all of our household products changed. But what I was seeing is that new people coming into these social media groups were experiencing the same thing. Like I was seeing the same people commenting on them, and telling them to change all of this stuff and you have to stop and you have to do it this way. I'm going, there's got to be a better way.
Right.
We are spreading a fear. It's bad enough finding out that you have to give up all these things you love.
Right.
So I thought there's got to be a better way. And that's when I called my son, who is, he works in technology. I'm not a tech person.
Okay.
So I called him and I asked him his advice on some stuff, and we were going over it, and I just came up with the idea for Alpha Gal Pal, which is we are a web-based support and resources community. So, and we're really in our infancy right now. I mean, we're brand new. Um, Still trying to make sure that everything is put together. So, and what we offer there is not only the support and the resources that we're getting from social media, but we also have a food log, um, where we have partnered with a third party. So you can log all of your, not just your food, but your symptoms, your activities, pretty much everything in your day to day. So when you're trying to figure all of this out, because it does go beyond food, you can kind of track and see what's causing your symptoms.
And then
Um,
look back and say, okay, so the days I felt bad, I had this or did this, and maybe there's a connection.
right, right. Instead of looking back, because I mean, like everybody told me to keep a food
Food
log, and I'm
dye,
just
right,
going, oh, now I've got 30 pieces of paper to look
right,
back on. And
right.
so it keeps it on the web. So, I mean, it's protected.
Right.
Excuse me. Um, so it makes it easier, and if you want to share it with your doctor, it's always with you.
Right.
Um, and it just is easier than writing it all down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, and I would think too, and just then, just also sharing, like I was looking at some of your things, and just that on the food side, that there's times when, like, for example, you had gone on and like there was a bread, and you reached out to a company and say, can you confirm that this bread has no mammalian products, and they actually responded like, well, our bread doesn't, but other people use our same facility, so we to making their bread, so we can't guarantee that our bread, because even though it's like we know our bread is fine, but maybe someone else who's using the same bakery for their brand, they could be using something. So I mean, it looks like you've gotten, like, when you reach out to companies and ask them this, do they come have they been helpful in coming back? Do they have any idea what alpha gal is? Like, what's been your experience trying to get that information that's like real? Because you need to know this. Like, someone
Right.
customer service person might be, oh no, it's vegetarian, not knowing that there's some component in that item that potentially has something that could be,
Yeah.
discomforting to you.
Right. So I usually get a pretty good response from the companies. Occasionally we run into some issues. In fact, just last week, I reached out about a women's personal hygiene product, and it took 3 emails to get an answer that finally came back with, oh, well, we don't include any animal byproduct, but because we just purchase our ingredients, it could contain animal byproduct. So sometimes it's not always so easy.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, I've talked about this other folks with alpha gal. People don't realize that even just things like a medicine, a lot of like medicine capsules and things are made with like the gel cap type things. A lot of those have
Right,
some
right.
mammalian, because it's like gelatin basically that's what gelatin is like a mammalian byproduct. So people don't make that connection. They don't think when they're eating a bowl of Jello that there's like a connection to actually kind of
Right. Right.
animal
And then it
product.
goes even further than that, because on top of the mammalian products, there's carrageenan. And carrageenan is made from an algae or a red seaweed.
Hmm.
So, and we can also react to it, and it is vegan and it can be considered organic. So, we do have to be cautious. It's used as a thickener and it is also used in like the gel,
Right,
um, in the vitamins and stuff. So,
right.
we have to be cautious even if we're purchasing vegan products.
That's interesting. And probably a lot of vegans would be interested to know that as well, who are very much do not want to admit, they absolutely are really do not want to be consuming any, any animal-based products either.
Right. Well, and it's not, I mean, the carrageenan is not, it's a
Not, but
seaweed.
right.
So,
But it can just, with the way alpha gal is, it can just cause,
right.
oh, see, I see. Okay. Now,
Right.
how do
It's
you, I mean, and how did you come to just, is that through your research and that's like kind of what with alpha gal pal, like having that information for people? So if they go like, wait, I got one of these vegan things and I had a reaction. And then will the community be then within the Alpha Gal Pal be like, wait a second, check this out? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so the community is basically set up like a social media. I mean, it has where you can post your daily whatever, your
Yeah.
daily posts, and you can make friends and, just be able to communicate with people, all of the people, but then you can also send friend requests and all of that. And then it is set up with forums and groups. So there's forums on, um, different topics. So whatever you feel like is important to you, we have it set up where our community members can start their own forum.
Oh, nice.
So if you do consume dairy, you can start a forum, about it. And by starting that forum, it gives you the ability, if you have somebody that comes in and is just like, well, this isn't right and you shouldn't do this. And there are those. Um, so it gives that member the opportunity to say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't discuss that in here. It gives them some control over
Right,
it.
right. Whereas opposed to just on like a Facebook or other social medias, it's you don't
Right.
maybe can't kind of weed out the people that are not really being helpful to you.
Right. So that regardless of what kind of situation you're in personally, you know, there can be a group for you.
Gotcha. Oh, that's wonderful. And
And
how's the response been within the community to having this kind of more private, or not, it's public, but then private, kind of more amongst
right.
yourselves,
So
kind of
it's really
discussion.
slow.
Yeah.
It is slow. And the biggest problem that I have run into is getting it advertised. Because so many the easiest way for me to advertise it is on social media, and so many of the groups won't allow you to advertise.
Right.
So getting it out there has been the biggest problem.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, I
But
mean, and alpha gals, unfortunately, good and bad, it's in the news a lot more. So there will be a lot more people searching it. And I think when people hear, a meat allergy, there's always that like, oh my gosh, what is that? And that I don't want to get that. And then maybe also prompts people to think, wait a second, I've been having this issue with my stomach for a while or other ailments and I don't know what it is. And hey, there was that tick one day. So, I mean, I think there's a connection that's just going to continue. I mean, good and bad because we want people to be diagnosed and have help. Um,
right.
but obviously don't want people, being sick. Um, One thing, so on the other side of this, because I know what I've heard from other alpha gal people that are suffering, that getting another tick bite can also be a big problem.
That
Did the doctors or do you have you heard that with alpha gal?
I have heard that, and I am going to assume that it is accurate
Yeah.
because, like I said, I mean, I didn't know I had it until I got that next tick bite, found that tick,
Right.
and that is when I did become more reactive.
Yeah, right, that's true. So you're an example of that. Yeah, I mean, I think just generally tick-borne disease is getting a lot more attention, which is good. Unfortunately, though, also a lot more people are suffering from tick-borne disease. which is not good. So hopefully, like all together, we can, help people and help prevent tick bites, because you don't want to stop going outside and enjoying life. Because I imagine too, when you first diagnosed with all your changes, that you were pretty scared just to go outside.
It is scary.
Yeah.
It is scary. People in town are used to seeing me in my yellow rubber rain boots so I can
Right.
see if I've gotten into anything. But you do what you have to do, and nobody wants to stop going out,
Right. Exactly. And I think
you
that's
know.
the important thing. 'Cause you still want to enjoy being outside and enjoying nature. I mean, and I think too, I mean, you were just in the park, and I think also there is still a lot of education to be done about like they are just in the local park. You don't have to be out on some grand hike on some trail in the middle of, woods to have a tick attach.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, they're everywhere. And
Yeah.
one of the worst hit places, and I was really surprised, is actually New Jersey.
Hmm.
That they're really struggling there. So,
Yeah, it's all, and I think people also that it is all over the country, that it's everywhere, and that people are, I've heard these stories of someone going to their doctor and like, well, we don't have ticks here, and it's like, well, first off, you have ticks pretty much everywhere, and people travel. I mean, it's like, people are just staying in their one little area anyway, so it's but the education and continuing to talk about it's just so important to help folks.
yeah, and that's just it. And what we're trying to do at the Alpha Gal Pal is just put all of those resources in one place, um, so that you don't have to search for them. You don't have to. It's stressful trying
Mm.
to find all these resources, and we don't want to take away from anybody else. I think that what the two Alpha Gals are doing is fantastic. We want to support them. We want to support Sharon and the
She's
Alpha
Alpha Gal
Gal
Infor
Alliance.
It's the Alpha Gal Information. Yes. I think she's yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we want to bring all of these people together and
Yeah.
all of these different resources together. Um, and so that there's one easy place to find it all,
That's
you know.
fantastic. Yeah.
Um, and then, we of course offer the food journaling. We also we're partnered with Meal Garden, which has been fantastic. They are a meal planning
Yeah.
software.
Oh,
And so there's thousands of recipes on there that you can search by your allergen. So whether you do eat dairy or whether you have gotten new allergies or old allergies that, you can narrow your ingredients down by those. And you can also change your ingredients. But the great thing about it is that you can track your nutrients through it. When we change our diet so drastically, we it's so important to continue to track your
right.
nutrients.
Right.
Because we're giving up um, dairy and red meats without having an understanding of how to replace that.
Right. So now you're on the lentil train.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
so it's important to keep up with that.
Right.
And this goes beyond the macros. It goes into all of your micronutrients, all of your vitamins.
Right.
So, and it's connected to the USDA database. So, as long as the database can find it, you can add ingredients or put in your own recipes, and it will bring up your nutritional status for your recipe.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think honestly, we all should be doing, knowing kind of what we eat and how we feel, because everyone has days that like, oh, I ate, it was good, or I ate this and it felt really good yesterday, or gosh, I was feeling kind of logy yesterday. Like, hey, what did I eat the day before? Maybe it is all connected, but obviously for folks suffering with alpha gal, like it can be serious and have a lot more, greater ramifications. But no, that's a fantastic service. So and just to be able to track all of that in one place has just got to be a relief to a lot of folks.
Yeah, it was for me. I
Yeah, yeah,
mean, and that was what started it, is that I just couldn't find anywhere to do it. Everybody said keep a food log, but nobody says, okay, this is how to keep a food log, and this is what you actually need to log. And so, I did find one, and they sent me a download so I could
right.
print it off. I'm like, I can do that.
Right, right, exactly.
So this has been a labor of love for
Yeah.
sure. We went through many different websites trying to put it together and decide what platform was best. But it is coming together, and I feel like it is going to be the biggest help that anybody could find early on with Alpha Gal.
That's great. And what, yeah, and because I think another thing that has to be, I mean, I learned something because you were saying you had some of your symptoms before, more like the tinnitus and vertigo. And in what I had always thought was it's really just like, oh, I have like, massive stomach issues and diarrhea and things like that. So, I mean, different people, their response and their symptoms are big difference. So you don't really, for you to maybe talk to someone else that had similar symptoms is very helpful, as opposed to someone's like, oh no, it's just my stomach. I'm not dizzy. You're dizzy. Like, to know that that's, there's other folks having the same thing, and to be able to support each other has to be like very, very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was probably a month in and inside of one of the Facebook groups, and somebody had mentioned having those as symptoms, and I was like, I'm going through that, or I
Right.
went through that, and so I had no idea even at that point. I just knew I was getting better.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
there's no rhythm or rhyme to alpha gal.
Right.
Honestly, I mean, it just affects us all
Yeah.
very differently.
Well, I mean, it's fantastic that you've done this and putting together and saying to everyone, hey, we're all different in this, but let's be together and help each other and have a place to do that. And to really think about the whole system down the line. Like you said, it's not just like change your diet because all of a sudden maybe you're not getting enough vitamin D, or you're not getting enough of, iron or other things because you're suddenly changing. And then you feel worse because your body's not at full functioning because you're just not eating because it's, properly. So
Yes.
everything has to be, considered. So it sounds like that's what you're doing with alpha gal
Yes.
pal, considering the whole being, the whole person, the whole
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, because it does. It affects us all very
Yeah. Yeah.
differently. And there's no, we need a judgment-free area where we can go, and if we do decide to continue to consume dairy, it's okay.
Right.
Or if
Yes.
we decide to just not be afraid to eat anything, that's okay too.
Right.
But just to have the support of the community. And we have a section in there that, like we were talking about, I reach out to the manufacturers regularly. But as we continue to grow, everybody is welcome to post their letters from the manufacturers. So it's not just me doing all of that. It's,
Right.
the community can do it.
That's
So,
fantastic. I mean, there's the internet has done a lot of, there's good and bad, but this sounds like a very good thing to bring people together and have a place to be and to discuss and to be free and to, hopefully, we'll get the word out more about Alpha Gal and have a place people can go if they find out they've had a positive. And to also know if they have a Lone Star tick on them and they start feeling weird, that they should go and ask, say, give me the Alpha Gal test. And then they can start
right.
that journey
Yes.
because I assume the quicker you can figure it out, the better for all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much. We will link to Alpha Gal Pal and in the notes below, and hopefully we wish you just all the success in the world and hope you just I'm sure you already helped a lot of people. So we love people. There's some people in the tick-borne disease community that they've had something bad. They've become sick. They've had this thing to overcome, and then yet they've decided then to give back. There's something, and I've always found it just so inspirational and really special within that community. So it's great to see, and You
Oh,
know,
thank
usually
you.
sickness doesn't be like, okay, let me go help other people, but for somehow this, they did that. So
Well,
kudos.
thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us your story. And we will be keeping tabs on you. If there's anything Insect Shield can do, we're here to help.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.